Hey everyone, Fimbulvetr here, ready to count down my top 10 least favourite Generation 2 Pokemon. Now, I love Johto as a region, it's perhaps got some of the best Pokemon out there, but there are some duds in amongst the absolute gems, and that's what I'm going to be talking about today. Let's get started then. At number 10 we have Remoraid, who I don't really have anything against, it's just that its evolution into Octillery doesn't make any sense. Octillery is an octopus, so logically you'd think its pre-evolved form would be a small squid, maybe an octopus-like creature, but no, they decided to pick a Remora, an animal that naturally just kind of hooks itself onto other fish-like animals and goes on with them. It's kind of like a symbiotic relationship, hence how it helps Mantine evolve into Mantine. So it has no relation to Octillery, and it just doesn't make any sense how it evolves. And just remember, it's also got a fairly bland design. It looks more like a pet fish than a Pokemon, and that's why it's down here. At number 9 we have Miltank. Now again, I don't have anything against Miltank as a Pokemon. In fact, its design is fairly fluid and it's faithful to the cow. But it's just Whitney's Miltank, really. And it just takes the biscuit. You encounter it fairly early on into your adventure into Johto. It's only in the 3rd gym. And normal types of Wenanza not being too difficult to get over, but at least being fairly hard to get a super effective move on them, given they're only weak to fighting. But you enter the gym, battle the Clefairy, the first Pokemon, easy as cake, and then they send in this abomination of Miltank. It's perhaps the most annoying Pokemon that any NPC has in the game, in that it's an array of moves designed to specifically piss off its opposition. It starts off most battles using Attract to immobilize your Pokemon by love, although how anyone can love this ugly thing is another matter. Then it will use Stomp to make sure you flinch and never get any moves off. If it's running low on HP, don't worry, it will suck its own teats with milk drink and recover itself. I mean, firstly, that's really unhygienic, and secondly, in the heat of battles, that's really what a Pokemon should be doing. I mean, if you understand how other recovery moves work, like Recover, just uses psychic energy to heal itself or something, but this one just seems a bit misplaced as well, and also a little creepy as well. Finally, it has Roll Out to do more damage each turn once you're kind of stuck in love and can't actually do anything, which is really annoying. Then, even though you might think, that stops it using Milk Drink, no. Anytime its HP is low, it will miss Roll Out, so it will be able to use Milk Drink again. It's so darn hard to beat, and effectively it forces you to use the map drop from the week before. And that means you have to level it up and everything just to be able to beat the 3rd gym leader. Yep, that's right, the 3rd gym leader. It's too high a challenge for so early in the game. Number 7, we have Corsola, who's more of an amalgamation of all the things I really dislike in a Pokemon. It's got a horrible design, fairly common typing, it looks ugly, it's single stage Pokemon so it doesn't evolve, and it's quite hard to find in the wild, so it's pretty hard to add to your Pokedex. It's just, everything about it is wrong. It's got too low base stats as well. And the only saving grace for it is the fact that Misty used it in the anime, and it was pretty darn cute in the anime, I have to admit. Number 7, we have a similar Pokemon to Miltank in that it's annoying to face, a Stantler. Now, you face them roughly between Goldenrod and Equity City, and they've got another move called just to piss you off really. Hypnosis, Stomp, Sand Attack. Makes you sleep, miss, flinch, and that's just the start of it. I mean, one of my battles with Stantler, annoyingly, it was a shiny Stantler, put all my team to sleep, ran out of Pokeballs, ended up having to run. Not a pretty sight, and I kind of hated it ever since. But aside from that, its design is just butt ugly, literally. I mean, it's got a giant kind of turd thing sticking out from its bottom, which is massive. I mean, either it's like a massive tumour, or it could just be a giant balloon. Then its face, worse, got that whole nose thing, and it's just plain ugly. It's one of the worst conceived Pokemon ever, I think, in that it doesn't even look like a Pokemon because it's that bland, but it looks just plain ugly, a horrible corruption of an animal. At number 6 we have Snubble. which is a similar dislike to that of Mr. Mime in that it's creepy as hell to look at. It was meant to be a representation of a dog, kind of the first dog Pokemon, because Growlithe is more of a feral animal, and it's just wrong. It's like an over pampered pug in terms of its like design and kind of how it appears. Obviously, the snub in its name refers to it being a snob and snubbish towards other Pokemon, and this is best exemplified in its portrayal in the Pikachu special with the first Mewtwo movie, where it just looks down on all our beloved Pokemon, and it's not a nice representation of the new region to come, I feel. I think that and Marill were some of the first leaked Pokemon. Obviously, Togepi was actually the first one, but didn't look kindly upon the generation, and that I think is a shame. Added to that, how it's bizarrely coined the fairy Pokemon, when it has nothing really to do with fairies, and it should have been more, as I said, either a pug Pokemon or just the dog Pokemon, and it just kind of adds a bit more to the creepiness. Then, of course, Gen 6, they had to give it the fairy type because they called it fairy Pokemon. And now, not only is it a snub to everything else, it can perhaps still eat your soul as well, because that's what fairies do, in my opinion. The only saving grace being, though, is that it evolves into the wonderful Granbull, who is a boss and a really useful Pokemon to have in battle. At number 5, we have Igglybuff. Now this is the first of the babies on this list, and I've tried to keep them to a bare minimum because otherwise it would just be ranting about all the various babies from the generation. Because let's just be on the whole, they're all terrible. Babies in every generation are awful. But I'm restricting myself to 3 select choices for this video, mainly because I feel that these ones are the worst of the bunch and that I have more interesting things to talk about them than I do for some of the others. So let's get started with Igglybuff. Most baby Pokemon have come as a kind of mini form to evolve to basic Pokemon that already exist. I think this really works considering the basic Pokemon are quite small as they are, and most babies are generally just a smaller version. The only exception to this is Munchlax, because I think it does make sense how Snorlax wouldn't hatch out of an egg at what, I don't know how big it is, like 7 foot or something, massive weight. So I do concede that Munchlax might be a necessity, but Igglybuff really isn't for Jigglypuff. I mean, Jigglypuff is tiny as a Pokemon, and yet it needs a smaller and worse form that does nothing to the line. If anything, it just detracts from the kind of awesomeness of Jigglypuff. And I think Game Freak have kind of realised this, and so has Nintendo, in the way that Jigglypuff has now become a mainstay of Super Smash Bros. And is a pretty fun character, especially when you get that rest time. And how Wigglytuff was a leading character within the Pokemon Mystery Dungeon game. They want to remove Igglybuff from our memory. It was a mistake, and Game Freak and Nintendo recognised this. Number 4, we have Smoochum. Now, this is kind of continuing on with the theme of bad babies. Call me a cynic, but I'm pretty sure that the baby Pokemon in Generation 2 were introduced purely to attract more girl gamers to the Pokemon fanbase. Even though that was kind of unnecessary because Gen 1 and Pokemon itself is such an inclusive game for all ages and all genders. But I feared that the babies were just a way that Nintendo and Game Freak wanted to attract more female players. And I feel that it's kind of backfired. Smoochum is a prime example of this. In Gen 1, we have Jinx, Electabuzz, and Magma, which we didn't really form part of the trio until Gen 2 gave them each babies in a separate place in the Pokedex to the other babies. So those 3 have formed an elemental triad, as it were. And then in Gen 4, they released the Electivire and Magmortar ones, and evolutions of 2 of the parts of the triad, but not an evolution to Jinx. Now I think the reason for this isn't because of Jinx's perhaps racist original look, because they rectified that, and by Gen 2, if Jinx was really an issue, they wouldn't have made Smoochum in the first place. I think that Smoochum is the root of all evil in terms of Jinx's evolution line. It's ugly and horrible and rich in existence. It's so weak. It's not most baby Pokemon, but I think Smoochum's the ugliest of the bunch, especially with that horrible colouring system as well. Purple, yellow, and I think orange doesn't go together whatsoever. It's just dreadful. Number 3, we have my final baby Pokemon of the list, and you could say it's a bit of a rogue entry. It's Tyrogue. So pleased with that. Anyway, I don't hate Tyrogue because it's a bad baby. I hate it because what it did to the Hitmons has been unrepairable. The Generation 1 Hitmonlee and Hitmonchan were two awesome monotype fighting Pokemon that, like, you had a choice to either get one or the other, and it was like, do you want the awesome martial arts of the kind of punching guys like Jackie Chan, or do you want the kickboxer like Bruce Lee? And then Gen 2 decided, well, let's have a third Hitmontop. I mean, I could say it's a try and be cash-in on Beyblade, but I'm a bit cynical in that way. But yeah, Hitmontop was kind of cool. It wasn't really necessary, but at the same time, I don't really have any problems with it. But no, instead they want to link all these three Hitmons together with a common ancestor, and they picked Tyrogue, who is ugly as all hell. But my main complaint with Tyrogue is the way it evolved into one of the Hitmons. From level 20 onwards, it either evolves into Hitmonchan if it has a lower physical defense than physical attack. It evolves into Hitmonlee if it has a higher physical attack than physical defense. Or it evolves into Hitmontop if its physical attack and physical defense are equal. Now that is the dumbest evolution method I've ever heard. Even dumber than Malamar having to flip himself up to evolve from Inkay. And it's just horrible in terms of it's so hard to get which one you actually want. Especially as EV training and what have you back in the original games was pretty limited, and internet was still in its fledgling days, so we didn't really know much about how to evolve it. It was just a misstep, really. And number 2, we have the semi-legendary status Pokemon that is unknown. In principle, I like the idea of a Pokemon that's based on the English alphabet, that's kind of ancient glyphs of how Pokemon used to communicate or how people communicated as well. But in practice, it basically boils down to, here's one Pokemon, you've got to catch 28 varieties. What, you're thinking? 28? We only have 26 letters in the alphabet. Yep, and Game Freak recognised that, but bizarrely and inexplicably, they decided, let's have an exclamation mark and a question mark as additional unknowns. Why not a full stop? Why not a comma? Why not an inverted comma? Why not semicolon, colon? Where to stop? A bracket? Or, I don't know. It's just terrible, really, that you have to catch all of them to be recognised as having the national dex completed and having to collect the unknown finder things. And it's not worth the effort, really. And it's not like the unknown themselves are good Pokemon. Oh no, they only have one move, Hidden Power, which every single Pokemon knows, apart from those that can't actually learn TMs. Which is just dumb. I mean, if these unknown are so high status or have you, they should have at least a move that separates them from the more modern Pokemon, not something that everyone can learn. And in addition, their Hidden Power does not vary its type, whereas most Pokemon could have Hidden Power, Ground, Ice, Rock, Flying, or what have you, based on like the individual traits. Instead, all unknown have Hidden Power Psychic, which effectively makes them have a stab Psychic type move that is worse power than Psychic. And it means anyone that has a Dark Pokemon, there is no way that unknown can kill it. And that should not be the case. It should not be completely alienated from one major type in the game, which was actually introduced in Gen 2, so effectively making them absolutely useless. Now, we come to number 1 of our list, but before we get there, let's just do some more honourable mentions. Cleffa, Magby, Elekid, because they're all horrible baby Pokemon. Note, Pichu is the only one that I condone from Gen 2, purely because it's so cute and some of the animations with the movies are all very good with them. Then as more honourable mentions, we have Porygon 2, and as I've said in my previous video, I really hate the idea of that Pokemon, and Porygon 2 is just a continuation of that, but there are more Pokemon in Gen 2 that I dislike, and I feel cheap to just use Porygon 2 and then Porygon Z every single in the respective videos. And also Pineco, it looks really dirty and horrible. So now we come to number one. Dun, 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 dun. Any guesses? Well, it's Quillfish. You just gotta be Quillfish. Perhaps one of my least favourite ones of all time, and certainly if I ever get around to making a top 10 least favourite, judging not by generation, this one will definitely make the cut, probably even in the top 5. It's just a combination of everything I hate in a Pokemon. Bad design, yep. Ugly looking, yep. Poor stats, yep. Shallow move pool, yep. Hard to find, Bad shiny form, definitely. And a stupid name as well. I mean, they had so much they could have done with a pufferfish. It's a very unique fish that can puff itself up, as the name suggests, and explode to do damage. And yet, Quillfish can't even learn explode or self-destruct or anything like that. Instead, it's stuck with, I think the most magical set has waterfall, toxic spikes, and there's no really good moves for it. Yet Tentacle does that job so much better. It's just outclasses it in every shape or form. And it basically just leaves Quillfish to, I think it's in NU tier. No one uses it, no one wants it. They had a chance to be cool, have maybe a small pufferfish followed by something that looks vaguely like Quillfish. And they could have given it explosion and self-destruct and improved its defenses greatly, making it more reflect the fact that it has spikes all over its body and that would hurt. In addition, they could have given it the hidden ability Iron Bombs, but instead it's left as a rather sad Pokemon in terms of it just doesn't do anything really. And that's kind of why it's on this list so high up, especially. It's just a bad Pokemon, and I really hate it so much. Anyway, thanks for watching this top 10 least favourite Johto video. Next time we'll be counting down from Hoenn. I just need to get some basic ideas for a script for that. I know what 10 Pokemon they are, and hopefully that can be uploaded sometime in the week. We'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching. This is Fimbulvetr signing off. Goodbye.